everybody. Here we go again. This is James, CEO of Jimbo's Show. Again on MH370. I don't know how many more of these I'm going to do on this. Probably a few more. The next step might be MH17. I've watched a few videos on that and compared it earlier to the kind of Tenerife, where you have two 777s that kind of went down 3 months apart, similar to the two 747s that crashed into each other at the same time. But the results were about equal. Anyway, so here's kind of the plan for tonight. It's 11:30 p.m. out here or so, and I'm a bit tired. Scale. Was working on my maps again, the same ones that you've seen before, and I was working on adding a scale to it. This is Kuala Lumpur here, and so on. And anyway, I looked up the distance between Bangkok, Thailand, and Kuala Lumpur, and came up with 1187 kilometers or 738 miles, and so on. And then I measured it, and it just happens to be roughly about 2 inches. So 1 inch, that would be half that. So I divided it in half. So up here, 1 inch is half that distance, which would be 593.5 kilometers or 369 miles. So on. Here's my handy dandy scale here. This is tenths, and it's not perfect. I just sort of improvised and so on. But so this, you just measure the 2 out here, and it's just right about 2 inches, and so on. There's probably some warp and so on in it. I don't know, here's 1 inch, so this would be about 369 miles right here between these 2 points here, Chennai, and this point is roughly about where the lady in the sailboat said she saw MH370 in flight at night, I believe, on fire. Their sailboat trip, she and her husband were out here. She was on night watch. That's kind of implies it was at night, and I think she said she saw navigation lights at 2 other airplanes and saw the orange lights on MH370, which she kind of later attributed to fire. Anyway, this aircraft took off from Kuala Lumpur, went off to Angari intersection, and then disappeared. The witnesses claim that they saw it low here, and then a witness out here on an oil platform said he saw it up high, maybe not as high as airliners normally fly over the area, a bit lower than that, but still really high up. So it sounds like maybe it descended down low and then it climbed back up. To me, we're working on comparisons wherever this is. It kind of leads us into comparisons next here. I was comparing this to Varig Flight 254, which was a 737 that crashed in the Amazon region of South America a while back, many years ago perhaps, and that was attributed to navigation error where the crew just kind of got going kind of up the Amazon basin low and ran out of fuel and so on. And the recommendations that were made afterwards were that it's kind of like a good idea to like climb up high if you get into a situation like that, to go, like gain radio contact. Maybe you get help from somebody by climbing up high, and so on. And it also gives you kind of more glide options and things like that when the fuel runs out and so on. So it's almost like maybe, I mean, if they took off here and they had smoke in the cockpit or something like that and descended down low to land, and then, you know, or rapid decompression and descended down to low to land, and then they were out, didn't have any radio contact at that point. Maybe that's the reason that they climbed back up high, and this guy saw them up high here. So it's almost like maybe they're kind of like following what Varig did not do, which was they did not climb up high, and they ended up crashing because of that. So they kind of took that advice and maybe climbed up here. I'm getting kind of sort of this picture that maybe that the plane had a smoke problem, and you know, maybe it really kind of wiped out the passengers in the back, because people kind of wonder why there weren't cell phone calls made. It might be that they were just over this body of water and it was too far away, but I think that there's kind of something, you know, there's something maybe wrong with the passengers if they weren't calling on their cell phones and so on. So it seems almost like there was maybe like one pilot that was maybe still alive, and no radio and so on. And so, I mean, he ended up going down low to try to maybe save the passengers and, you know, get down low, you know, from decompression or whatever, and then realize that, you know, that they're gone or whatever, but he's alive. Maybe the captain, you know, captain was gone too or something like that, and it was just the co-pilot, or it's just the, you know, captain, you know, one, maybe it's both guys in the cockpit are fine, but everybody else is gone or something like that. But for some reason they climbed back up high, which sort of indicates that maybe they were like trying to establish radio contact, which they never did. And then they ended up kind of flying out over here somewhere. I was trying to like look up the direction. This lady said that she saw it coming in, I think from the north to the south or something like that. And I was going to draw that flight path in here, but I couldn't quite find where I'd wrote that. And so on. It probably doesn't make that much difference anyways, since it was kind of up high and so on. Then they were the plane was like low around the Maldives, which kind of like further indicates that it's like maybe this plane was like flyable or somewhat flyable, but no radio working and so on. You know, and then these people like in the boats here said that they saw it kind of low to the ground, and I was looking at that, and there's sort of a pretty good argument that these people didn't actually see it land. They saw it like it maybe crashed, but you know, they didn't actually see it touch the ground or crash or land. They just kind of saw it kind of disappear because it got so low and so on. The only one that really seemed to kind of say that it was definitely on the water was this lady that came on this commercial airlines flight across Chennai here, and then right in this area somewhere. She said it was just past Chennai, but I'm saying maybe it was, you know, in actuality quite a ways from Chennai, like is, you know, right around here, and she didn't realize that, you know, the plane was getting in so close to, you know, the land masses over here. And so on. So she seems to be sort of the key witness, but I haven't had time to kind of look at that. To get back, got to really almost sum up already here. These fire extinguishers were, these things were like found on a beach on the Maldives, and people kind of think that they might be, it's a single one. They found one of these things on a beach in the Maldives, and they think that it may be a fire extinguisher from a 777. And I looked up that on Boeing, and they have kind of the schematic here of the 777 fire extinguisher system for the lower cargo areas, I think. And their drawings look almost exactly like these things. What I don't really lack is that I don't really know exactly the diameter of these spheres. It's more or less a sphere with kind of things, protruding out of the sphere, and so on. And these also look like they're pretty much the same thing. I mean, almost verbatim, and so on, and so on, and so. They have a pretty good argument that they may have found a 777 extinguisher that somehow came out of the airplane and floated and washed up on the Maldives. There was something else. Sister of America. This lady. That I was looking at the American passengers, and the sister of the American adult passenger. There were two young kids, and there was one adult, and I don't think any of them were sort of like related to each other or even in the same party or anything like that. But this lady kind of seems to think that a GPS tracker would be a good idea, and so on, which sort of implies that she's of the school that that the MRSAT isn't all it's cracked up to people. What people are saying that it exactly kind of shows where the plane flew, and I think she's kind of like putting forth that, well, if it showed exactly where the plane had gone, well, why haven't we found it yet, kind of thing. So anyway, kind of more on that. This lady, I already talked about the lady that said she saw the plane, and so on. There was one other key point I wanted to kind of make, and I had a thought, and then I kind of lost it when I was talking, and so on. I don't know what it was right offhand. This was another scale that I did here. This is, these are two kind of pretty prominent cities here, the Medan and Taiping, and I looked up the distance between those two, and it came out to be 167 miles, roughly 269 kilometers, and I figured it's roughly about half of an inch, so they doubled it, so it's 334 miles to the inch, and so on. Just kind of playing with that a little bit. I meant to like draw this bigger, but I just didn't get around to it. Those, maybe the fire extinguishers were kind of the thing I was trying to think of. But there's always next time. So you have this more on kind of Inmarsat. To kind of cut to the chase on the Inmarsat, there was a video on day 14, and there was a guy that works for Inmarsat that made a statement that he did not he knew that Inmarsat wouldn't give anything really. I mean, if anything, maybe just time intervals, but nothing more than that. So all this about the seventh arc and all that kind of stuff seems to be sort of fabricated. Anyway, like more on that later. I'm just really trying to maybe come up with like products, like in the spirit of like the lady thinks that all planes should have GPS, and I was like looking at like car GPSs, and there's like trackers for that and so on. So I don't know what I can do because that's like too involved, and I don't have the means, I don't think, to deal with that scale. But anyway, I hope you like this. Please give a thumbs up and subscribe and tell all your friends and so on. And watch for more. Probably the next one will be this same MH370 and and whatnot. I don't know what to say. There's a lot on sort of the that sister kind of has it that that somebody's not being forthright about all this, and there seems to be sort of almost a growing body of evidence that suggests that there's people that do not want this aircraft to be found. And I mean, that poses a big problem. I mean, I don't have that much personally wrapped up in this. I mean, it's just if I get to the point where it's just I'm stonewalled, I can just switch to some other topic or whatever. But you know, it's kind of an interesting one. As chairman of a former chairman of the NTSB on a video stated something about us Americans should fly American flights because the foreign carriers are not as transparent as the American ones, which sort of implies that and this was like in response to MH370 directly. So, he was being asked about that flight, so it sort of implies that that maybe something is not so right, and like the the government of Malaysia and so on. Anyway, and everybody kind of is asking them to go find the airplane for them, and they might be the very ones that don't want it found. Anyway, hope you like this. Have a good one. Better go. So long.